Can you hear me now? Yes, perfect. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me here at the IMC conference. It's a pleasure to be here. I got to say thanks to Mike Fulton, who's a faculty and I know he's on the advisory board. We had met last year, and he said, you should come speak. And so here I am. So thank you, Mike. We appreciate that. Some of you already dug into the candy bags. That was meant for afterwards, so we're going to collect those right now. Just kidding, just kidding. That's part of the core for working in the candy business. There's no other profession that I know of that you work for, in the candy business that I don't go anywhere and you're like, hey, do you have any samples? I mean, what other profession really does that? So if you don't come with candy, you look foolish. And so obviously, people already helped themselves. Please go ahead. There's more here for afterwards if you didn't grab one. And if you can, at least take one. We'll see we have enough for everybody. Make sure you consume it in moderation. There's plenty of snacks that are out there. How many have heard of Just Born before the brands were rattled off? Yeah, I don't know, maybe 10, 15. Nobody knows Just Born, and that's okay, although that's what I'm charged with now. I'm trying to build the corporate brand. And as I travel around the country, people always will see my shirt that says Just Born and my name tag. And they'll say, what, you guys make Bibles or, baby clothes? I could make something up. But as soon as I go into the brands, particularly Peeps, then people's faces light up. Of course, on Peeps especially, they got to tell you a story, how they grew up with the brand, how they pop a hole in the package, how they make a diorama, and nobody else does that, and everybody, my mother does that. I mean, there isn't a story I haven't heard on Peeps, but it's pretty amazing because it really has a fanatical following. But Just Born is a pretty amazing company. We're a third-generation, family-owned business. And I'll tell you a little bit about our owners. We've been around since 1923. Of course, we've listed all of our brands. Peeps, everyone knows, it's our biggest brand in terms of awareness. But actually, Mike and Ike is our biggest brand in terms of dollar sales. Anybody here heard of Mike and Ike? All right, love you all. Continue to buy. I have 2 daughters going to college soon. Hot tamales. Any hot tamales fans here? Yeah, not as much, but big. Hot tamales, #1 cinnamon candy in the world. And I can say that because really cinnamon confection is really a North American phenomena. Outside of North America, cinnamon is more a baking ingredient. But thankfully, we're the #1 cinnamon confection. So if you like something hot and spicy, we're bigger than Big Red Chewing Gum, we're bigger than Red Hots, we're bigger than any cinnamon confection out there. And then do we have any Philadelphia folks here or East Coast that's heard of Goldenberg's peanut chews? Not many. Goldenberg's is something we acquired a brand we acquired in 2003. It's actually older than our company, 1917. But it is a strong horse in its core market of Baltimore to New York, with Philadelphia, where it's been for many, many years. And hopefully you'll enjoy the samples there. Love peanut chews. And if you can't find it in your market, ask your local store person to carry it. We're okay with that. I am the Vice President of Corporate Affairs, although most of my 25-year career has been spent mostly in marketing, a little bit of sales, and then I got tapped 4 years for my current role. And I'm still in marketing and sales. I'm just not on the brand side. I'm more about building the corporate brand. And as you heard, I wear a lot of hats, which I actually enjoy this job. This job didn't exist before I took it, as our company has grown to become the 9th largest candy company in the United States. Very quietly. So I handle community relations, I handle consumer relations, government relations, trade relations, public relations, a lot of shuns there. I'm essentially the glorified representative to all of our external constituents, but I've been there long enough, 19 years, to be dangerous, to know about all the brands in our company and everything like that. On the personal side, just to get to know me a little bit, born in Newark, New Jersey. Anybody here from Newark? Or want to admit it? Nobody. How many have been to Newark Airport? Yeah. You never came to visit. What's going on? I'm very proud of my roots. Growing up in Newark, nobody lives there now. I was one of 8 kids. But certainly that multicultural upbringing, being a minority in the true sense of the word, not that I really know what it is nationally, but that was very unique to me, and I've taken that going forward. I love lakes, and Lake George holds a special place for me. Anybody been to Lake George before? Upstate New York, Adirondacks? I came to know Lake George really through the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts kept me off the streets, became an Eagle Scout, but our scout camp for most of the kids in Newark, New Jersey was going up to Lake George, New York, not on the lake, but just off the lake. I worked there for 10 summers, and I still go back there usually every single year. I went to undergrad at Boston College, marketing, went back to Newark, got my MBA at Rutgers. I certainly am a man of faith, and there's my church, and then my lovely family, my wife Sarai, and again, my two high school daughters, 15 and 17. So again, please support Justborn, Fireman Peeps. They have high aspirations, maybe even WVU, we just don't know. And these are all the brands that I've worked on, certainly for the last 19 years. It's all been at Justborn, but I've been in the candy business over 20. And I started in soap, selling soap on Whisk and also Dove soap. Anybody here use soap? Raise your hand. All right, anybody here use Dove soap? Yeah, there you go. And anybody remember or still use Lever 2000? I was there for the launch of Lever 2000. I'm very brand loyal, especially for the places I've worked. I think that's important. So I still use, Whisk in the laundry room. I still use Dove for Men at home. And then I jumped into the candy world and actually worked on bubble gum, both Double Bubble and Razzles. Anyone ever heard of Double Bubble? All right. Anybody remember Razzles? First it's a candy, then it's a gum. It starts off like Sweet Tarts, and you chew it, and oh, it's a bubble gum. They're still around. At that time, it was owned by Fleer, but it's been sold twice. Now both of those brands are owned by Tootsie Roll, as all industries kind of consolidate. And then, of course, for the last 19 years, I've worked on all of these brands. We've talked about Peeps. We could have a whole IMC session on Peeps, so I'm going to hold that maybe for another time. It really is just a magical brand, and I can't tell you how much consumers just go crazy for Peeps. Mike and Ike's been fun to work about. We'll talk about that. And of course, we talked about the other brands here as well. Interesting story with Justborn, because again, many people know our brands. You saw them all up there together. The first thing they're surprised is, oh, you guys make Peeps and Mike and Ike. And so people don't know the same brands are made by the same company. And so we're starting to change it and try and get our story out there. We have a tremendous story to tell. Family-owned business, third generation. This is our founder sitting down here, Sam Bourne. He learned how to, originally from Russia, learned how to make chocolates in France. He immigrated to this country in 1915 and then eventually opened up a little candy shop, a little factory in the back in Brooklyn, New York. He made all the chocolates himself. He used to put a sign in the window. The candy is so fresh, it's as if it was just born that day. So it was a play off his last name. So that's where the name Justborn comes from. And as the business took off, he brought his brother-in-laws into the business, the Shappers. That's Jack and Irv Shapper standing up to help with sales and marketing. And the business was off to the races. Back then, all candy companies made everything. I don't know, you probably have some local candy shop here in your own community that they make every type of chocolate or nonpareils or non-chocolate. That's how everybody was. And then everybody started to focus in. And we focused a lot on non-chocolate for sure. But ironically, with peanut chews and some other things, we're getting back into chocolate. And so in 1932, at the height of the Depression, things were going very well. They were looking for more factory space. They were looking for labor. Of course, Bethlehem Steel was at the height of its glory, starting to build New York City. They moved to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and that's where we are today, kind of the eastern part, right up across the border from New Jersey, about an hour and a half west of New York City, and about an hour north of Philadelphia. And that's where all the peat makers are today. And these are our current co-CEOs. This is David Shapper. He's the son of Jack Shapper. And then also here's Ross Bourne. Ross is third generation. So despite that one is second generation, one is third, they're exactly the same age, which is 63, the same age as Peeps. Peeps have been around since 1953. I don't know if there's any, what's that's going on there. But, you couldn't work for two nicer guys. Such a great family story there, particularly Ross's dad, Bob Bourne, second generation, who's really credited with being the father of Peeps. Peeps were all made by hand at one time. It actually was an acquisition of a candy company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the Rada Candy Company. And that was actually Milton Hershey's original caramel plant. He sold it to Rada Candy Company. We were buying it for its jelly bean technology, but lo and behold, in the back room, hundreds of women with these pastry tubes squirting these little perky birds out by hand. And so the Shappers, they were more sales and marketing. They looked at Bob, because he was a Lehigh engineer grad, and they said, can you automate this process? He's like, I got this. And literally, they bought the company. A year later, he automated the machine that's still running today. That we like to say that once took 27 hours to make one Peep, which includes making the marshmallows, putting it out. And a lot of that's sitting in overnight, so it was ready to then get less sticky and go into a tray. But once took 27 hours, now it takes 6 minutes, soup to nuts in our factory. But before, when we don't do factory tours, unfortunately, hopefully we have a Crayola Center, who's a neighbor of ours right next door at some point. But we're quite not there yet. So Ross and David, do our business today. Our vision at Just Born is to be the most respected confectionery company in the world. Not the largest, not the most profitable. It really speaks to the culture that Ross and David created. That's what's kept me there for so long. And these are just some of the things that are great about our company. The fact that we're landfill free. We actually recycle 97% of our waste. 3% is then turned into electricity. Our associates voted on us one of the top workplaces a few years ago. Our plant is SQF certified, safe quality food, which is very important. We're a member of the Children's Confection Advertising Initiative. We've taken a pledge not to advertise to children under the age of 12. And we do a lot for the community, which you see here below. That's our kind of volunteer logo. We do tons of things for the United Way, although separately we do our own grants, about $500,000 every year to the community, different nonprofits. We have a whole volunteer program. Every associate can volunteer for 24 hours on company time throughout the year. And of course, we give away a lot of candy like we just did today. And we were actually honored for that in the state of Pennsylvania last year. All right, enough about the commercial and the brands and Just Born. Let's talk about what we're here for today. We're the 9th largest candy company. We're certainly growing, but we don't have deep pockets. Mars and Hershey easily outspend how large Hot Tamales is in sales. When you think about what they spend on advertising and all sorts of things. So how do you compete in that type of environment? Particularly, they're very powerful. At the front ends. Rarely is our candy, when I say at the front ends, we're a little bit different than other food, wherever there's a register in people, that's where candy is. And so if you think about any place you go to where there's a register, there's typically candy. It's very much an impulse item. People are now putting it on their shopping list. So when they see it, hey, a little piece of candy, it'll pick me up, let me reward myself, right? I've been good today, let me just have that. Or if it's Easter, it's part of Easter celebration. So, it's very tough. That space at the register, that's ground zero. That's the front lines. And it's a tough place to compete in, as well as you got to step up to the table, and pay per square inch. Typically where you see us, not in all places, we're actually more developed out west. The further west you go here, you'll see more of our products at registers. You'll see more package types. You'll see more flavors. And then certainly Peeps, pretty much Easter time down to candy aisle. But the candy business, although we're all friendly and we all get along, it is very competitive. So how can we stand out? And that's what I'm going to talk a bit about today. Not everything, but some key points. First and foremost, the power of partnerships. How do you stretch that dollar? How do you go further, with your resources? The easiest way to do that is partner up with the right people, bring them to the table, because, two is better than one. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the power of PR. Certainly we do a lot of advertising. But certainly when it comes to Peeps, and you'll see in other cases, I was arguing with Mike and I, PR has really built our brands and our business, and we'll talk about that. It's so key as part of our marketing mix, or our 360-degree view. And we'll also talk about the power of branding, which is key. Yourself as well as all of your folks being brand evangelists. We heard about evangelists today. Who better than your own folks, can be evangelists. And so let's just jump in. We'll start with the power of partnerships. Anyone see this promotion at Dunkin' Donuts that you did? It was like about 2 or 3 years ago. Do people like Dunkin' Donuts here? Yes? Okay. Well, this was a promotion we did back in 2012, I think is what it was. And again, who here likes donuts? Anybody? Who here likes 2 donuts? All right. 2 is always better than 1 donut, right? I like chocolate chip cookies. I can't have 1. I have to have 2. I think it was Helen Keller who said it best. Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And that really, we have really been able to grow, and I think back over our 19 years at Just Born, we've really been able to grow the business through the power of partnerships. You can do so much more when you join forces with other people. And it's funny, I think our current Vice President of Marketing, she takes it to the next level. She calls it OPM, or other people's money. When you don't have that money yourself or those resources, let's go find other people's money and see if we can kind of get together. This promotion was pretty amazing because, in order to have a successful partnership, it has to be win-win for everybody. So I joke about, other people's money, but you got to be able to bring something to the table. And for us, quite honestly, the biggest strength when it comes to Peeps that we can bring to the table is our awareness and our strength at Easter time. I mean, we may not be as big or known as much as M&M's or Snickers, but I would argue at Easter time, we can give those brands a run for the money. Everybody knows Peeps. I mean, that chick is our icon. That's our Mickey Mouse. And so that's the strength we play. And so when different partners are looking to grow around that Easter time frame, who better than to come to an Easter icon, especially one that generates, billions of impressions every single year. So that's what we came bringing to the table. They certainly wanted to sell more donuts, so this novel idea of wanting to put a chick on top of a donut. For those of you who are Peeps fans, you're probably very familiar with that chicks are kind of connected together for the most part. That's the best-selling one. We call it the little quintuplets. It's a 5 count, but we sell them 10 or 15. But we've got into new technology, where we have individual chicks. So we were looking to see how we could, utilize this new technology we have, and what better way to bulk it, ship it out to Dunkin' Donuts. We actually sold it for a nominal fee, which again was a nice revenue stream to cover our costs. It gave Dunkin' Donuts an opportunity to be different around the Easter time frame, hopefully bring people in to sell more of these flour donuts with Peeps on top. We got the benefit of their social media, of their in-store advertising. Again, we sold about 1 million Peeps to them. They repeated it in year 2, 2013. It wasn't national, it was kind of more regional. And then of course, unfortunately, like some partnerships, because there's new management, they want to try something out. Some really keep going. Others, they decided, let's put that on the shelf. And so, we still have it on the shelf. We're talking about other different ideas. But this was something that really drove a lot of awareness for us, again, around the Easter time frame. And it's important because, we don't spend a lot of advertising. It's funny, when we talk to our consumers on Peeps, you would think, when we ask them, have you seen our advertising? Yeah, I see it every year. We haven't done advertising in a long time. We've done it on special places. It's because they see it in the press, they see it out in the marketplace, Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, you can't really put a price tag on that. Another great partnership or promotion that we did, I don't know if anybody saw this last year. Yes, I see somebody up there. Yes, Peeps Milk. Anybody see this Peeps Milk? Raise your hand. Anybody drink milk here? No? Okay. Well, it's funny. This is an opportunity of a partnership that really fell into our laps. We were like, we really want to do this. This was somebody approaching us. Prairie Farms in the Midwest, if anybody's familiar with Prairie Farms. They approached us. They wanted to be a little different at Easter time, to have, utilize their eggnog and create some of their flavored milk out there in 7 states. And they wanted a license with us. So we said, sure. We didn't think this was going to be a big deal. Oh my goodness, last year, it's funny, it was only available in 7 states last year, but it got picked up like crazy and went viral. It was on Jimmy Kimmel, it was on all the talk shows. In fact, I think they had the American Idol judges trying the milk, and I think one of them, got to go to Hollywood, which is great. And we probably generated in the milk alone, about 7 billion impressions, which is kind of crazy. And it's funny, I attend a lot of public relations events, and I'm always astounded at the power of Peeps. Partnerships help amplify our impressions. I go to a lot of different PR awards, and I hear about the impressions they get. Can anybody guess how many total impressions Peeps got this past Easter? I'm talking after Valentine's Day till Easter, in terms of just free press. And obviously the internet has changed things. Everybody's going online and driving up those impressions. But anybody want to guess how many impressions at all? Anyone?
20 billion.
What did you say?
20 billion.
20 billion. It's higher than that.
Wow. 100 billion.
Anyone?
100 billion.
No, I wish it was. That'd be nice. We're going to shoot for that. No, we were at 43 billion impressions this past year. I've never heard any type of campaign, even in the billions, let alone 43 billion. It always just kind of astounds us. And again, I really think that in some ways, we have a built-in magnet with Peeps. People want to talk about Peeps, but we've tried to be very proactive through partnerships and other things. 7 billion alone on the milk. Had we not had that last year, that 7 billion we wouldn't have had. Any other question?
Are there any KPIs that tie the 40 billion and 43 billion impressions to where
purchase ROI in any way in the dashboard?
Not necessarily in the dashboard. We can point to, the only thing we can point to right now is some of the activities that drive the impressions. And certainly throughout the Easter season, you can think about the announcement of milk, or if you did something with Dunkin' Donuts, or we have a lot of other partnerships, like with Yankee Candle. And if they'll do something, that'll help amplify. So nothing that directly then relates to purchase, but certainly we know what activities kind of generated what types of impressions. And I think the big learning that we've heard or learned about, because how often can you tell that Peep story every single Easter, although people want to hear it all the time. It's these new partnerships and promotions which have driven a large chunk of those impressions. And so we continue to look for partnerships. You'll hear a big one next year that I can't really talk about, but certainly it'll even make hopefully 43 billion look like a small number. So first year we actually had also a vanilla flavored milk there. That one didn't do so well. It kind of tasted like, you ever eat cereal and then like the milk that's left over in the cereal bowl? That's kind of what it tasted like. It was a little thick, so not many consumers liked it. So this year they kept eggnog in the line. We had chocolate, they added strawberry, and actually orange cream was a specific SKU for Walmart. So they did Prairie Farms nationalize this past Easter based on the success in 7 states. And so we were in Walmart and Kroger, in those super centers are where they have grocery stores, and they're looking to expand on that. They're a dairy, they can do ice cream. Lots of opportunities here, which again, talks about the power of partnerships and getting together that we would likely have never done on our own. And we weren't really looking to go out and do milk. And so sometimes, you know, in working with a partner, you want to trust them where they had the strength and knowledge and wanted to learn about milk. And so we decided to partner with them, and it's been pretty amazing. And so I could look back and talk about a lot of partnerships. Somewhere maybe you're putting out more, or you're having to pay for certain things. But in a lot of cases, you really want to come to the table and have it be a win-win. Same amount of resources come to the table, and it benefits both parties. So now let's move on to the power of PR. We talked a little about Peeps. Again, I could be here forever talking about Peeps when it comes to PR. But one of, I think, the strength of PR really came into play with the Mike and I campaign. And it's something that, PR in general has been ingrained in my mind from our owners, particularly Ross Bourne, which I don't think he can take credit for, but he continuously has said it over the years, is that PR builds brands and advertising sustains them. I mean, and that's very true. I mean, you think advertising, it brings back to mind memories and that sort of thing, but it's that initial PR that really is building the brands. And in today's social media age, I like another definition, which is even, I think, stronger, because sometimes, particularly students, undergrad, they get them confused when you think about the difference between advertising and PR. And very simply, PR is when others talk about you, and advertising is when you're talking about yourself. And so in today's day and age, again, what's more believable? It's when other people are talking about you. Now, yeah, maybe they're more critical when it's a newspaper or something like that, or something from a press release you've written, but now you go into social media and you have all these folks talking about you. That's pretty powerful. And so does anybody remember hearing about Mike and Ike breaking up in 2012? Even a fair amount of people. This was one where this brand is one of our oldest brands that we had in-house. Again, Peanut Chews was 1917, but mostly regional. Mike and Ike is national. It's been around since 1940. It's a top-selling non-chocolate chewy fruit candy. And within the world of non-chocolate, chewy fruit candy is the biggest segment. But we got a lot of heavy hitters we're up against. When you think about Starburst, Skittles, I can go on and on. Even included some of the sour brands like Sour Patch Kids. So it's hard to break through that clutter. And in years past, in advertising, we tried to do what most people did, growing up and learning about school. You talk about the benefits of the product. We're fruity and juicy. And then people would say, yeah, I know Starburst. That wasn't going to work. We couldn't really stand alone. We couldn't break through the clutter, to own something. But I was in sales down in Charlotte. When I came back to the headquarters in Bethlehem in 2010, I was a VP of marketing. We had a new president at the time. He said, we got to do something for Mike and Ike. We got to start all over. No one is talking about Mike and Ike. We don't have a big budget here. So we invited about 3 or 4 agencies to come in and to pitch us on what we could do with the Mike and Ike brand to really stand out. And certainly, as you can imagine, there were things that we expected. Nobody can own Mike and Ike, those two names. And so, like the M&M's characters, we expected people coming in to create Mike and Ike and who they were, and to play off that. We certainly expected that. We expected some people to do the traditional route, you know, talk about the benefits, or maybe the unique shape, the fact that people call them pill-shaped or bullet-shaped in some cases. And so we brought the agencies in, and sure enough, there's one agency that went the normal route. There were two agencies that brought these guys to life, but we really fell in love with the one agency that had this crazy idea. Not only was going to bring them to life, I mean, what kind of made it so weird, and we loved it, and immediately we said, let's do this, was that we were going to create who they were, but no one was ever going to see them. They were never going to exist physically. And that was great because, you know, we didn't want to create who they were, and all of a sudden they would have to stay that way. And Mike and Ike has been around a long time. People of all ages eat Mike and Ike. And so not creating an actual physical person allowed the consumers to create in their own minds who these guys were. The second big thing was actually, let's break them up. Let's go their separate ways. You know, who doesn't fight with their brother and sister or their best friend, or get fed up, you know, I'm out of here, right? And you go do your own thing, you stay away from each other. But then after a time, you want to end up coming back. And so we were so excited by this idea. And so we ran with it. And it was funny, at the time, we were ready to launch a new product formulation that we held off on because we wanted to do this idea. The salespeople thought we were crazy when we said, how are we going to let consumers know about this breakup? Well, the first thing we did is we scribbled off Ike or Mike on all the boxes. And they just started showing up at retail. And of course, you can imagine all the salespeople, oh, the stock clerks are going to throw it out, thinking that somebody wrote it on the box. I thought, no, that's okay, that's the idea. I mean, we wanted the people to think that either Mike crossed off Ike, or Ike crossed off Mike, or Ike rather, and there was actually a little note on the back of the packages, talking about the feud, you know, saying, hey, you know, I'm going to go my separate ways, so, hey, we're going to continue to make the candy, it does form well, but I'm going to go separate. And that alone just started to cause a buzz all over the place. We actually put out an official press release apologizing to fans the fact that they broke up. We took serious ads out in a lot of the trade publications, apologizing for Mike and Ike breaking up, the fact that Mike was leaving, he was going to pursue a new career in music, and Ike wanted to follow his passion of art. But don't worry, it's just one. We're going to continue to make the candy, you know, but they're breaking up. And we're, you know, and we started to plant little seeds to let people know that Mike and Ike were going to show up at different events, and then they would never show. Or they'd be introduced, you know, and like the Von Trapps, you know, and they'd never come out, you know, from behind the stage. And this, you know, this would happen at our candy show, real serious events. Like, and people start going, do Mike and Ike really exist? Yeah, they exist, yeah. They're just not here, you know, they got caught up in traffic or something like that. And it was so amazing. Now, certainly there was an advertising campaign that was created for it to supplement it, but it was, again, that initial PR building buzz that really built this brand. Nobody was talking about Mike and Ike before this. And I couldn't go anywhere without a Mike and Ike shirt, or people found out I worked for Mike and Ike. It was like, did they really break up? Is that what you're talking about? And, you know, so from that standpoint, it was pretty amazing. I'm just going to play a little highlight reel for you. It's only about 2 or 3 minutes, which captures a lot of the campaign if you didn't get to see it all.
We were asked to revive the sleepy 70-year-old candy brand. And though Mike and Ike don't exist, we were asked to revive the sleepy 70-year-old candy brand. And though Mike and Ike don't exist, and they never have, we figured that shouldn't stop us from breaking them up.
I'm talking about Mike and Ike, the candy, this candy. The name Mike is scribbled out in the box, right there. It was like that when we bought it. After 72 years, Mike and Ike are splitting up over creative differences.
Customers started seeing their familiar packages defaced in stores. Mike and Ike's celebrity friends were pulled into the fray.
We have heard rumors, but Mike without Ike just doesn't seem possible.
I haven't written a note since Mike and I broke up.
Controversy erupted.
The candy characters, Mike and Ike. You know about Mike and Ike?
Well, I remember them.
Mike and Ike. They have announced that they're splitting after 70 years. Mike and Ike are breaking up.
No,
Yes, they are reporting it's a gay divorce.
Mike and Ike.
Yeah, Mike and Ike.
We're gay all this time.
Apparently so.
Duo is staging a gay divorce as part of a new ad campaign to draw in younger customers.
How did it get? What are you talking about? Nothing in the Mike and Ike ad campaign says anything about Mike and Ike being gay.
They began pursuing solo careers. Mike producing music,
Yeah, Mike's dropping beats and I'm dropping bombs. Let's go, strawberry attack!
Ike immersed himself in art.
I think there is an energy around Ike's work that we haven't seen since Macedo's debut.
The breakup extended into outdoor and radio.
And did an elusive artist release a video confirming that Ike left Mike and Ike Candy to become a street artist? I'm your Cruz, and that was the celebrity gossip of the week.
And had the social media world abuzz, with the Mike and Ike Facebook page nearly doubling the number of fans in 1 month. There was, fortunately, a silver lining to this disastrous breakup.
Again, Mike and I, genius. Like, everyone's talking about it now, and you're right, no one was talking about Mike and Ike before.
Mike and I, holding on, holding
So that was just a little bit of the highlights there. I mean, again, the whole gay divorce was interesting. That was never in any of our materials. You know, sometimes they say, I guess bad PR is good PR. I'm not sure about that. But it was pretty interesting. That really started with the Huffington Post. They kind of sensationalized this whole breakup, and before you know it, it was like the gospel truth. You know? They were gay. I mean, again, look at our website. And again, nothing that there was anything wrong with that. I mean, we just announced that they were partners, you know, business partners, and they were breaking up after all these years, you know, just like most people do. So again, there was a lot of activation around that, but it really was the PR that really jump-started and got things off, and really kind of put Mike and Ike on the map for not being on the map for so long. And so we're looking at different ways now as we think about our hot tamales brand and some other things that we want to do. Because certainly, again, you know, Peeps really is utilizing PR very well. I had neglected to mention, you know, one of the things that, you know, obviously we do want to talk about, and it was in the, you know, my presentation, was about keeping things simple. And that's why I have this picture. Everybody know who this is? Anybody here Kiss fans? Anybody want to admit it or not admit it that they're Kiss fans? And I only put this up, you know, again, for the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. As much as I'm sure you've all heard this, nobody follows it. Nobody does. I mean, you know, and it starts on all levels. And I see it now even outside of my marketing realm, in the community, government relations, writing press releases. You see it, everybody just likes to speak. Just shut up, you know, and just, you know, keep it small, keep it condensed, keep it easy for people to understand. You know, the origins of this word, and I think his name is Kelly Johnson. He was an aircraft engineer for Lockheed Martin, made a lot of planes for the military, spy planes and things back in the day. And what he used to do is he used to get all those air designers, you know, the big engineer designers in a room, and he'd throw down a regular toolbox. He said, we're going to design an airplane that anybody out there on the front lines or whatever with this toolbox here can actually fix and work on that plane. And that's how they started. Keep it simple. And it's something that, you know, we preach all the time. I mean, for, you know, you folks, you know, coming here, a lot of times, you know, you're getting to know people, and I do this a lot even like in an interview process. You know, it starts with, you know, what's your story? Or what's your elevator pitch? I'm sure you've heard that before, right? You know, you're in an elevator, you're trying to make an impression, you only got 5 minutes. Well, tell me what you do. Well, I work at a candy company and we make all these, oh, hey, come back! You know, and they're gone already. What, you know, keep it simple. What is your elevator pitch? What is your short and sweet, keep it simple, either about yourself or about your company, that you could do in a few words, that you memorize and you have down pat. I know for us, a lot of it is one of the shares saying, hey, what do you do at JustBorn? I'm a vision builder. That's what I do, I'm a vision builder. And then if I have time, I can talk about all the different things I'm doing and trying to fulfill the vision to become the most respected confectionery company in the world. I know we're going to hear from the Red Cross tomorrow. And I remember interviewing a candidate for a position I had, and she was from the Red Cross. And I always ask this question in the interviews, oh, you work at the Red Cross? Oh, tell me about the Red Cross. What's your elevator pitch? She's like, we are more than blood. That's what she said. I was like, whoa, I get it, I like it. It was very nice. She didn't go into pints and life-saving and all this other stuff. She's like, we're more than blood. You know, that also falls over into when you're developing missions or vision statements, whether it's for the company or your own, you know, particular division or department that you work on. Keep it simple. I know one that stands out for me is the Ritz-Carlton. If anyone's ever heard, I guess, either what their vision or mission statement is ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. And that's what they're, and you almost get a picture of it automatically. And so, I can't stress enough, you know, keeping things simple, keeping it easy to understand for that lowest common denominator because it's easier for people to know. That also does come over into the marketing realm, and I can give you lots of examples where we did not keep it simple. In fact, the one I'm going to take you through now is actually when we acquired Goldenberg peanut chews back in the day. So this is kind of what Goldenbergs look like. It's been around since 1917, again in the Philadelphia area. The candy industry is made up of hundreds of small, you know, family-owned businesses. In fact, you know, Hershey Mars, their roots are still in family-owned businesses. Everybody knows everybody else. And so the Boards and Shaffers knew the Goldenbergs. The Goldenbergs wanted to get out. We decided to purchase the business. This is what it looked like. But of course, then it was turned over to the marketing department. Thankfully, I wasn't in the department at the time. I was in sales out in Charlotte. But like all good marketers, you know, we did a lot of research. What are we going to do? Goldenberg's is mostly dark chocolate. The North American palate, even though dark is growing, is still very much a milk chocolate market. So let's maybe focus on milk. Does anybody know who Goldenberg's is? I'm not really sure. Why don't we snazz up the packaging, right, to go national, because nobody knows Goldenberg's in other places. And so, in fact, just before we bought the brand, the Goldenbergs were looking at a transformation that looked something like this, which, you know, it was very similar. It was modernized. We liked that. But we went ahead and we did that. This is what it was. We did that. And so Goldenbergs disappeared. The name Chouettes appeared there because there was thought about, hey, let's launch almond chews and let's launch pretzel chews. We can do all these chews, but the brand name can't be peanut chews if it's peanuts. So let's start to create this sub-name Chouettes, and then going forward, we can launch all these great things. The brown was taken off and just red was placed there. Supposedly this logo was tested, you know, it resonated with consumers. We went out in the marketplace. We launched it nationally, right alongside Mike and Ike and Hot Tamales and other places. It stayed in its core market, and you know, the sales just tanked. They went nowhere. And we struggled on this brand for years. And what happened is it got on the shelf, people saw it, and they liked the candy. That was a good thing. At least the candy tasted really good. But somebody in California never heard of it, so they hardly ever picked it up. And then, even more importantly, in the core market, people thought peanut chews was discontinued. They thought this was bootleg peanut chews. Somebody was making like private label or something. We'd actually go on the marketplace and like, hey, what do you think about peanut? Oh yeah, peanut chews is gone. But there's like this knockoff out there that's trying to go, it's us! What are you talking about? So again, around the same time as the Mike and Ike campaign, we had a lot of new folks back in. I came in as a VP of marketing, and once you go down the road, sometimes, you know, in marketing, we're just so stubborn. Oh, it's too late now. Because we bought the brand in 2003, they changed this around 2005 and 6. I came back in 2010. Well, people are starting to know the new package. Maybe we should stay there. I mean, sales still sucks. I mean, everybody's down in the toilet. And so we tried to regroup. We talked with current consumers. We talked with consumers outside of the market. And really, we just totally walked away from the equity. We should have just kept it simple, you know? And ultimately, we arrived at going back to something similar to what the Goldenbergs were planning on doing it, but contemporizing it, putting Goldenbergs back on there, 1917 back on there. The cool thing about this package too, playing up its Philadelphia roots, the actual UPC bar on the back is in the shape of the Philadelphia skyline. Let's talk about its heritage. Certainly as of late, there's no doubt Made in the USA is very, very popular, and people are caring about where their candy is coming from. All of our candy is made in the US. And had we had just keeping it simple, things would have been a lot better. And then lastly, being a brand, yes, you had a question?
Was there any thought at the time of making, kind of like you did with Mike and Ike's, of saying, oh, Mike and Ike had broke up? Goldenberg's is back. He came out of retirement, something along those lines, to put that same sort of PR concept?
We did the same exercise in terms of bringing new agencies in, and I didn't want to spend too much time on that. So the idea we resonated and we ended up going out and market, and we're still using it today, is all fits under the tagline of chewing it old school. And because what we found was we had a core consumer, and I think originally the marketing group wanted to get out of what it looked like because the peanut chew consumer in Philadelphia was dying off. They were like Good and Plenty consumers. Sorry if anybody eats Good and Plenty, but it's like, you know, older people eat that. And if these people die, we don't have a business anymore. So part of it, was thinking to want to be fresh and new, but the insight that we learned about this Chewing It Old School campaign was retro, nostalgic was very important to that older consumer that grew up with peanut chews, that their mom and dad gave it to them, that they had it all the time. And of course, thankfully, retro is very cool and hip with today's consumers, especially the young teens, where they're wearing a lot of throwback t-shirts and that sort of thing. A lot of people finding out, wow, made here in Philly, I didn't even know that. In my backyard here, I'm going to support that. So we've gone forward with that campaign. I don't have execution of it. But we kind of took over Philadelphia with a lot of outdoor and different billboards, saying certain things like, we remember when South Street was punk. The South Street used to be punk back in the day. And we would, harken back to yesteryear and let people remind, but still be cool and hip. In fact, we went out and got a 67 VW microbus, and that's affectionately called Goldie. And we took that around for sampling events, playing up that, chewing it old school format. So that's the route that we ended up going. So lastly, I just want to cover branding and being a brand evangelist. You heard a little bit about that from Gino here, particularly for those outside of your buildings. I would argue, the folks in this room and your own organization, they've got to be first and foremost your biggest evangelists. This is the Hot Tamales car, Elton Sawyer. Any NASCAR fans here at all? Okay, 5 of us. Good. Everybody familiar with NASCAR? Oh, okay, there we go. Scared. Well, we got involved in NASCAR. Again, speaking of the power of partnerships, this was back in '99 or so, back when really NASCAR was becoming more national. And we signed on as a non-chocolate candy. We activated a car here. I grew up in North New Jersey. We didn't have NASCAR. And so as I got to go to races and understand it and activate and leverage it, I was always, mystified by this whole Vegas, New York Times Square look, the brands all over the place. All the drivers wore the uniform, their pit crew, the cars, they would change it up. I mean, this was expensive real estate, right here, even for this little thing right here. And it really spoke again to the power of branding. And I'm sure, a lot of you are familiar with that, obviously a lot of the reason why companies do this is because hopefully if your race driver does well, you show up on TV, it's like free advertising. For us, our drivers did okay. In some cases we hope for an accident, One time the hood got hit just in the right way, then bam, hot tamales, they're like, woo, 10 seconds, woo, it's free advertising. But for me, the real takeaway again was being able to brand yourself. And I don't go anywhere in the community unbranded. Now sometimes, I know you're on an airplane, you don't want to talk to people, you're tired, all of a sudden, your branded thing comes off, you want to sleep, I get that. But even in an environment like this, where I do a lot of things in the community or chamber events, I mean, you are missing out on an opportunity to build your brand, especially one like Just Born that nobody knows anything about. And so between a name tag and a little lapel pin, it has peeps on it, or when I wear my Just Born shirt, of course people say, oh, we make Bibles or baby nursery clothes, or that's my chance to give my elevators pitch. That's my chance to talk about the company. No one even has to guess at my name. They can come right up, hey, Matt, tell me what Just Born is. It almost is a conversation starter in some ways. And so, if you don't have You know, like our folks here in the front, branded real nice with WV. Or a lot of people carry their own brand. I mean, look at Gino, he's got the skull socks, he's got the cool look going. What is your brand? Brand yourself. I mean, you should be your biggest evangelist. In fact, you know, a lot of our companies, we talk about it too. What are our greatest assets? Our people and our brands. But why are we putting our brands on our people? Because they are the ones who nurture and build those brands and can talk the best about our brands and share that with other people. You're missing an opportunity to be able to build your brand. Take it one step further. Now, how do you do that and then also stand out? So, you know, we had a hot tamales car. So you could have easily gone out and just branded like everybody does and just slap a Peep sticker on the side of a VW and call it a day. But putting that chick on top and now giving it that wow factor and making it stand out has really worked well for us. The Peepsmobile was hatched in 2003 in honor of the 50th anniversary of Marshmallow Peeps. We now have 3 of them. This is my company car a lot of times in the community. I'm sort of a chick magnet. Can't pick your nose when you drive it because you got to be on. You have to take defensive driving courses. I can't tell you how many times I'm driving on the highway, all of a sudden I look out my window and there's this guy like with a cell phone, or they come right in front of you and hit the brakes, or I've been flagged down. Oh, what's wrong? I just wanted to take a picture of the car. I mean, it is so amazing, again, taking branding and then taking it to that next level of something as simple as just putting a chick on a car that brings smiles to people's faces. Again, another opportunity to be able to interact with people. And then I'll leave you with this last branding opportunity here that played off of this. Locally in Allentown, Pennsylvania, next town over from Bethlehem, they built a new hockey arena. The Philadelphia Flyers farm team, which the Phantoms is what they're called, was opening up shop. They came to us with a great idea. We want to do a Peep Zamboni. We said, we love it. They saw the Peepsmobile. Well, guess what? We signed the sponsorship. We were working with the people on the Zamboni, and then they came back to us, you know, with their heads hanging low between their knees. You can't do the Zamboni. You can't do the Zamboni. Well, if you go out there and you think about it, there is no Zamboni out there, other than maybe the San Jose Shark that has like a little fin or something, maybe on the top. There is nothing that really is like this kind of 3D built on top, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost is the driver's eyesight. You can't see, right? There's a big peak there. Secondly, a lot of cases there's, you know, limited height with these machines coming to the ice. And so those were 2 things that were holding them back. And so again, rather than saying, okay, do what everybody else does, we really pushed them on it and actually we developed this nice styrofoam, which is then kind of fiberglassed over. It's hollowed out that the driver can see, and it comes off on little 4 legs so that when they do have to get through in and out, and people go bonkers when this thing comes out on the ice. Little kids get to ride on it. You know, it's pretty amazing. And again, we could have easily just slapped a sticker on the side of the Zamboni, but we held to it. We wanted that wow factor. Again, part of that branding. And so with that, I know I didn't want to leave time for questions. I know we started a little late. But again, thank you. You've all been fantastic.